Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday night. It's 7 o'clock, and we are live. Hello, everybody. It's Sunday night. It's 7:08, and we are live. I apologize that we're a little bit late, but we had some technical difficulties, but we are all ready to go now. Thank you so much for tuning in to our special Halloween edition of V Talks. We are going to get spooky tonight because we have some ghost hunters on the show. I am so excited. They actually just wrapped up a series for Fox Nation called Secrets of the Asylum. And I have to tell you, I have watched 4 out of 6 episodes. I can only watch it during the day because it is that scary. So I believe in this stuff, and it's very spooky, very scary, and I can't wait for you to meet this amazing couple. I'm so proud of them. So please welcome to the V Talks. Hello, Scott Porter and Stephanie Burke.
Hi.
Scott is a paranormal investigator. Stephanie is a paranormal investigator and a psychic medium. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
We had a little issue getting on. It was so funny. It was right before we were going to go live, and then everything froze.
Yes.
Yes.
So we're sharing it now, so that way everybody else can watch as well.
Great. Well, thank you for joining me. I guess before we get started, I think I would love to educate our audience on exactly what you do. So I'm going to start with you, Scott. And what is a paranormal investigator?
That's a pretty good question. I think everyone has their own definition of it, but I think for the most part, it is a individual who looks into or looks for explanations of events that occur in people's lives and around them that cannot be explained. So you're a ghost hunter, basically, is what you are, and you're looking for that explanation for what you're for the unexplained.
Okay, so I know there's got to be a backstory here. Why did you decide to go into this line of work?
Me? Okay. Well,
yeah. We're still talking to you, Scott.
I am. I'm just an old Southern boy, and I grew up in a home that was deep rooted in faith and our religion, but it was funny that. That's not funny, but it's not funny. But my dad was the pastor of the church. And so anytime someone passed away, that's who they call to, come and be with the families.
Sure.
And, being from the South, and I know you'd be familiar with this, but when someone passes away there, you have the funeral and you have the graveside service, and then everybody goes back to somebody's house and they sit around and drink coffee or sweet tea and tell stories and just kind of like group therapy, and just reminisce, but inevitably it always turns to somebody tells a ghost story, and then everybody has a ghost story. And me as a child, I never had a ghost story. As a teenager, I never had a ghost story. As a young adult, I didn't have a ghost story. And I always wondered why I was the only one that didn't have a ghost story. And then when I was back at my parents' house, which was a newer home, while I was in college, I woke up one morning and I could smell breakfast. I could hear something in the kitchen. So I thought, oh, great. I've got a home cooked meal. I can't wait because I've been living off ramen noodles for the entire time I've been in college. And so as I walked,
they were 10 for $1. Do you remember 10?
That? That's right. Yes. Yeah. Actually,
they were.
think they were cheaper than that when I was in college.
No, I don't know.
Um,
I think they were 10 cents, weren't they?
I think they were 5 cents when I was in college.
Yeah.
Inflation.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But as I walked down the hallway and I looked into the kitchen, I could see what I thought was my mother standing there in a pink house coat cooking breakfast. I could see her moving. I could hear the skillet sizzling. I could hear the exhaust fan, on. So I went to the bathroom, freshened up, came back out. Wasn't in there just a minute or two. And when I came out, there was no smell of breakfast. There was no sound, no nothing.
Okay.
So I walked out and my dad being the pastor of the church, if he got a phone call to go somewhere for the church or whatever, they would take off leaving the car. If it was something to do with the farm, they would be going in the truck. And so I yelled for them, couldn't find them. I looked in the microwave because if they had food, they would always leave me a plate when I was there in the microwave or in the oven, but there was no plate of food. So I looked outside, the truck was there. I looked in the garage, the car was gone. I was like, okay, well, I'll give them a call. Because they had to have just left. And I'm like, thinking at that time, it didn't register with me that my mother was still in a house coat, so she wouldn't have left. And so when I called, my dad answered and I said, hey, where's breakfast? And he said, what do you mean, where's breakfast? And I said, where's breakfast? Mom was just in here cooking breakfast. And he goes, we're not home. I said, I know you're not home, but you were just in here and I was going to eat breakfast. And so there was some shuffling in the background. My mom got on the phone. She said, what are you talking about? And I said, you were just in here cooking breakfast and I was going to eat. She goes, no, I wasn't. She said, we're shopping. I was like, what do you mean you're shopping? You were just here. She said, no, we've been going all morning. We're in Bowling Green, Kentucky shopping. And I'm like, but you were just here. You were in a pink house coat. You were cooking breakfast. Yeah. She said, we've been gone for hours. She said, if there's somebody, she said, I don't own a pink house coat. So if there's somebody in that house wearing a pink house coat cooking breakfast, you need to get out and call the police. Yeah. So I hung the phone up and I sat there and I thought about it. I was like, oh, wow, that was real. Like I could smell it. I could hear it. I could see it. It was real. Yeah. So what was it? And that's kind of what kicked off my intrigue into the paranormal.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And Stephanie, so you're a paranormal investigator,
yes,
but you're also a psychic medium.
Right.
So can you talk to our audience a little bit about that?
So I have been this way since I was born. It runs in my family very deep. My mom has it. My grandmother had it. My second and third great grandmothers did this openly and professionally. I have their diaries from the 1700s and 1800s where it talks about their abilities and, them doing readings and things of that sort. And that bloodline goes back to the Mayflower and the Salem witch trials. So there's some rich history there that is really, really intriguing. And I didn't know what it was like to be normal or what people perceive as normal. Since I was born this way, I had that particular psychic light switch turned on. So I operated with a different another sense or an extra sense, so to speak, more so than everybody else around me. So I just operated exactly how I was built. And it wasn't until I was 7 when I lost my grandmother that I realized what death actually was. Nobody really had to explain death to me. I finally realized all the people I'd been seeing and talking to weren't actually physically there. And that was a tough life lesson for me, but I continued on. And it wasn't until I got into my teenage years that I was like, I don't want anything to do with this. This is horrible. It makes me different than everybody else. If I could take a bar of soap and wash the psychic off of me at some point, I think I would have, because I just wanted to be normal. I wanted to be perceived as normal. And it took me a long time to really tell people about it. But it was probably 2003, 2004 when Ghost Hunters hit sci-fi and everybody started to become intrigued with this idea of what paranormal investigating is or what ghost hunting is. And it's something that I grew up with. And my dad was a huge lover of history and a huge lover of ghosts. And we used to ghost hunt, even in my toddler years. And I loved it.
Really?
Yes, I absolutely
Oh.
loved it. And this is something that I grew up with. So I'm like, oh my gosh, there's people out there that are just like me, and I'm not alone. So this is kind of intriguing. But I didn't want anybody to know I was a psychic. So that took a long time. It wasn't until I met Tim Weisberg when I was either 18 or 19. And he kind of realized that I had these abilities and was like, all right, listen, like we have to do something with this. You can't hide forever. But it wasn't until I was probably 26, I think, that I ended up doing my first TV show and letting the world know what I did. So I loved the idea of what paranormal investigating was, and could you mix the psychic mediumship with paranormal investigating and somehow, some way come to a different conclusion? Because a lot of people realize, okay, I want to go to a psychic medium, but they have one purpose. They want to connect with their past loved ones. But can you use it to figure out who's in a home or who's in a location and what do they want and what do they need?
So, so if you're not a psychic medium and you're on a ghost hunt, does it look different to you than it would be look to you? Like, are you a psychic, Scott?
No, I don't consider myself psychic.
I don't know.
No. I think that we all have intuition and we all have some sort of connection to the energetic ethos, is what I would call it. And you can sense when something is around you or something is near. I think for Steph, she has a much clearer concept of what she sees, and her connection with that energetic level is much stronger. But for me, it's like you get feelings and you follow those, and you learn to trust that intuition when you are investigating.
And
now you've both done a lot of shows, right? So, Scott, I was looking at your bio, and you've been involved in several. I know. Gotta know who I'm talking to. No, we weren't swiping left or no. It was different bio. But what? I know we gotta laugh. Full disclosure, I am by myself tonight in this house doing this show, trying not to be scared.
You are?
You have no idea. You guys
you
go
had
in
somebody with you back there.
Stop. The lights were blinking earlier, and then we couldn't get on.
Right.
It was it was the minute we were getting ready to go live before I even hit that button, and everything froze. So
the good news is we're really probably 10 minutes from you. So worst case scenario, we can just come face it out.
Yeah.
Right. I know, because you've been to my house before. You know where I live. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, we can make a house call.
You're good.
We can make it. Yeah, we could have just done the show here.
We probably should have.
Yeah, we should have. I know. Well, it's rare that you both are here, so it worked out nicely. I do want to, before we get into your show on Fox Nation, I would like to talk a little bit about some of the other shows that you've done. So, Scott, when I looked at your bio, I saw you've got quite a resume.
Yes, it's funny because in my earlier years, I had a lot of friends who were, into the paranormal as well. And one buddy of mine in particular, we used to hang out, and he had a house that he lived in that always had paranormal activity. And we were big fans of ghost hunters. So we grew up watching, Jay and Grant. And
so fun. I used to watch that too.
Yeah. So we often said that we should get cameras and set them up and try to catch this stuff. But we never did. And then we kind of, we both went off and did our own collegiate or, type education and went to college and all that stuff, and kind of got into our careers. And then came back, and one day I was talking to him, and he said, I'm hunting ghosts. He said, you should come out and do it with us. And, I was like, well, yeah, maybe I will do that. Cause I like doing research. I love history. And so it just kind of worked out. So we started working, together and hunting, doing ghost hunts and stuff. And then we ended up on, doing a TV show called Ghostland, Tennessee. It was the very first show that we ever did. Well, before that I did the Paranormal Challenge with, Zach Bagans, and we won that, but Then we got a phone call about doing our own show. And they had not even seen us on the Paranormal Challenge. So they were just going based upon YouTube and other, I think it was MySpace at the time. And they said that, yeah, remember MySpace.
Yeah.
So I did the show, Ghost Asylum. And a lot of people, they kind of make fun of that show because the concept was to try to trap a ghost. That concept,
trap a ghost,
like the real life Ghostbusters,
like the little thing where you vacuum them in, and you.
Yeah, we called Dyson. They made us a ghost vacuum. Just
Stop.
kidding. Just kidding.
I almost believed you. Like, really? Did you have the
Really?
backpack?
Yeah.
The battery pack?
It's like a dustbuster, Ghostbuster, you know. But really, honestly, what it was is when you have a paranormal experience, there's an energetic interaction. And so the theory was that if you had a way to capture energy and you could show that in the midst of that supernatural interaction that there was no energy on a energy containment device, for example, a battery, a capacitor, or something like that, then after that supernatural interaction, there was a residual energy left. You, in essence, could prove that there was a paranormal interaction. And so with that show, they kind of twisted that into trapping a ghost. So we caught a lot of grief over it, but I mean, the show ran for a while and it did pretty good. Then we did Haunted Towns.
Yes.
And Haunted Towns was one where, there were multiple supernatural events occurring in a single town, and we went and looked to see if there was something in history that could connect all those together. Then we did Haunted Live, which was the only weekly live haunted investigation show that's been done. So each week we were live. We were live to the world, ghost hunting for an hour.
Wow.
So that was.
And when was that?
That was
2018. That was 2018.
Right. I mean, because we're live here,
right.
but most of these shows are not live.
Oh, they're not live. No.
That's pretty cool.
It was, and it was really cool. I enjoyed it because there was no manipulation that could occur.
No,
I mean,
you can't edit.
No, you see what you see, you get what you get, and that was enjoyable.
Of course, now I'm looking behind me on the screen. See?
Every time I've seen him, he looks very friendly.
I'm like looking around, like I've got a lot of windows. Okay, go ahead.
So, but yeah, then I did
not about me today.
But yeah, that's been my world. So, and then now I'm here.
And Stephanie, so I know you had said earlier, so you've got some shows under your belt too, right?
Yes, I do. I back in 2015, I think, I had filmed for Ghost Hunters, the original on Sci-Fi. I was asked to help out on a episode that's actually local to our area in New Bedford at Fort Tabor, to really lend my stories and what's happened to me there, because it was going to support the military museum. And because I wasn't a fan of TV, like I said, I didn't want anybody to know what I did. I'm like, please God, no, don't tell my secrets. But the military museum at Fort Tabor didn't get any funding at all from the state, from the city, nothing. So they ran solely on donations. Yeah. So we were able to do a lot of events for them and things like that to help them keep the heat on all winter. So that way, people could continue to visit and donate. And I did that. And that was kind of my first deep dive into the paranormal media. And then after that, I ended up filming for Kindred Spirits, which originally aired on TLC, moved to Destination America at the same time, and then eventually to Travel Channel. So I did 3 episodes with them, which was really fun. And I took a break for a while. And the pandemic happened and everything like that. So, and then we ended up here.
And now we just wrapped up your 6-part series where you visited Eloise Asylum in Michigan.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
The name of the series is called The Secrets of the Asylum. I think before we talk about your actual ghost hunt, I would love it if you guys could give me a little bit of history on Eloise.
Definitely.
Sure.
Mhm.
Eloise started, and it was active from 1839 to 1982. So you've got,
Okay. 1839.
1839.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
it started out as a poorhouse and a farm,
All right.
and eventually grew into the largest psychiatric institution in the United States.
Mhm.
It was when it, and it's in its heyday. So when it at its largest, it had 78 buildings. It was 902 acres. They had 10,000 patients and 2,000 staff.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So you can imagine the energetic mark that is left on that land
And
and on
that's
that
just
building.
at one time. That wasn't throughout the entire history of the
Right.
location. 10,000 at one time.
At one time.
They had its own zip code,
Mhm.
its own post office, its own fire
Fire.
department, its own police department, and
They-
all the buildings were connected.
Yeah.
Through tunnels,
Mhm.
and some were a mile long.
It was its own self-sufficient city. So they fed themselves from a farm there. I mean, it was literally cut off from society.
And I'm sure the criteria to get into Eloise back in the 1800s was very different than it would be now.
Oh yes. Listen, if you back talked your husband, he could take you and drop you off and you'd be locked up.
Yep.
It was that simple.
Simple things like postpartum depression, PMS would land you in an asylum. Just like you said, not having a good attitude can land you there. If you were the town drunk, it landed you there.
Yeah.
Depending on who was running the actual asylum at the time and what time period it was, you ended up there for a whole slew of reasons.
Mhm.
There was one point in time, I think it was the early 1900s, where the superintendent, I guess is what we'll call him.
Yeah.
Which I think if you've hit episode 4, you've learned a little bit about so far.
Yes.
He was big into something called eugenics, which is just basically eradicating anyone for any particular reason. So very similar to if you consider the Holocaust and eradicating an entire race of people in order to create what they wanted. That's basically what eugenics was. And if they deemed you not fit for society or not fit for their perfect world, then they sterilized you.
Oh my God. So what made you guys decide to go to that particular location for your show?
Well, I
Oh
wasn't.
boy, there's a story.
She
How did I
involved.
know?
I
Because
know
it's in
that-
Michigan.
Yes.
It is in
Yeah.
Michigan.
Mhm.
I think given if I had to guess as to why our production company and the network chose, everything that we just told you.
Yeah.
It was the largest in the entire US. They knew I had spoke for years and years. I literally, I think since I've met you, maybe even earlier, about not wanting to ever go to an asylum for a TV show or, an event or anything like that, because every show that I had seen done or every event that I had seen done was really exploiting the history and the patients that suffered at the hands of these people. And I never wanted it to be that way. So they thought, what a perfect opportunity to bring me into a location like this where I feel very differently about it. And I wanted to be able to bring some sort of justice to those that no longer had a voice. And I think that was part of the reason why they paired me up with an asylum. But I didn't know where I was going until I got there.
The biggest part too is that when you're looking at doing a deep dive into an investigation, you want something that's going to have that deep, rich history. So that way, as you're investigating and you're trying to, make a show that's going to cover, multiple episodes of one location, you want something that has the history deep enough so that it takes you a while to dig through it. And Eloise has such a vast history over a couple hundred years. And like we said just a few minutes ago, in its heyday, having 10,000 patients, hundreds of thousands of patients went through there.
Yes.
It wasn't just those 10,000. So you have all these voices that have stories who were dropped off and left and maybe never visited by their family. And one thing we didn't say yet was that if you didn't get visited by your family, you were deemed a subject. You were given a name, not a name, but your name was taken from you. You were given a number, and you became a test subject. So these people, the only thing left for them was their name. And so in death, if they did not get their story out, they want to get that out. And so Eloise provided us with that number of people and that number of stories so that this investigation could go on and on and on.
Oh my goodness. So production company says you're going to Michigan. How does this work? How do you prepare for a ghost hunt? What's involved?
Well, I mean, in our case, you know, there's a certain amount of history you have to look into. But with Steph in this situation, we had her Chinese walled off. So like it's a legal term. She's separated from all the research. She's separated from knowing any of the backstory.
Okay,
and
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Even for me, I was only able to or asked to only research the topical stuff. So just what's on the surface. And that's what I did. I became familiar with the history. I became familiar with just the surface information. So that way, when I was on set, I had enough knowledge to be able to guide my way through, but the discoveries that we made were real, true life discoveries on the show. And Steph had,
and you were validating it. I saw that on the episodes. Like you were validating the things that you had to work hard to find it, but you were validating, all the information that was coming forward. So you're there, you go there. What equipment do you have? Who's with you? What does this look like when you're walking in for the first time?
When I go in for the first time, I've got my notebook and the Stephanie Burke 3000. She's
all locked and loaded, ready to go?
Locked and loaded, ready to go.
She's ready to go. I'm charged. I've been on the charger overnight.
That's it. Yeah. Don't surface charger. She's good to go.
Yeah.
The charger consists of lots of cheeseburgers and lots of rest and relaxation beforehand.
That's it.
It was funny because, even driving up to the location, like down the street, I think I started to spit out information and my showrunner was in the car with us and he's like, stop it. Don't say anything. I was ready to burst. I'm like, I need to say it because the information flows so quickly that you have to release it in order to continue to get that flow going. So that was it. I think it was just us and a notebook that night.
Yes.
And at least the first night, because they wanted to do a walkthrough to just see who's there, what's going on, what do I pick up on. The number one thing with this particular show that's completely different than every other show out there is, or at least I can say the majority of ones that I know about, is they always have an outline, or they always have some sort of script to follow, or they know that this particular piece of this story is going to make it here and we're going to discuss this here, and you got to go find people to back up this story. With us, he just wanted me to walk through, see what I come up with, and then go from there. And we had asked our showrunner, like, is there anything that was our number one thing too, signing on to the show, is like, we're not going by a script, you're not making us say anything, like we want to do this completely authentically. And when we said, is there anything that we need to say, and he's like, yeah, welcome to Eloise Asylum, this is where we are tonight. And he said, the spirits will write the show.
Yeah.
If you have to fake evidence and you have to fake a storyline, then you're just lazy.
Is there anything behind me?
Hold on. No, I'm just kidding. So when
you have no idea how brave this is of me. Okay, go ahead.
I do.
Don't tell her about it.
Yeah.
Stephanie and I know each other. So she knows. Okay, go ahead.
But when it came to hey, the spirits will write the show, that immediately, and my personality, and you've been around me enough to know, like, I'm shy, like I have all this pressure on my shoulders now that I have to walk through, and all cameras literally and all eyes are on me, and I have to perform and make sure that I'm resting enough, I'm eating the right food, I'm at the point where the Stephanie Burke 3000 is going to work properly. So it was probably one of the most overwhelming situations of my entire life, because just describing it to you, I'm sure you can imagine what that type of place feels like to an everyday person. When I went in, it was just constant screaming is all I heard. And I'm like, how am I going to, it's like finding a needle in a haystack, you know, like going in and finding that one voice that wants to talk first,
Yeah.
or, you know, they don't trust us. Look at what they went through. So now we have to gain the trust. We have to figure this out. And it was interesting.
And one of the great things about the show, as you watch it, you see these flashes that we go back to where you see either historical events or people, and they're loud, they're screaming. What we wanted to do with the show was to give the viewer an insight into what Steph is feeling and seeing. So in those instances that you see those recreations of people screaming and going about and all the fuzzy faces and so on and so forth, that's how Steph described it to our producer so that he could try to bring out in the show what she's experiencing for the viewer to experience the same thing along with her.
I'm glad you said that, because I was actually just going to ask her what is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
it's
maybe I'm a little psychic.
I think you're psychic. I was literally going to ask that. So you're both psychic. Yeah. So that's interesting, because I was going to say, you know, what is it that, you know, do you hear it in your ears? Do you hear it in your head?
Depends.
Do you taste? Do you what do you feel, you know, on your skin? Does it feel that way? Does it feel like chills? Is it cold?
A lot of people will say, you know, you have to follow, I think it's like the 5 clairs, even though they've expanded over the years, like clairaudience, clairvoyance, claircognizance. I think that understanding your body and how it works, and every single person is different, right? Like some people might be better at hearing or seeing things. Spirits communicate with us in any way, shape, or form that they can. So if you walk into a crowd of people, you have all different personalities, and they're all going to communicate with you in a different way. You know, some people might be louder than others. Some people might be friendlier than others. It's the exact same thing when it comes to discussing anything with a spirit. So some of them might choose an easier way to communicate for them, which could be really anything. Some might choose a difficult way. It just depends on how much energy they can muster up in order to have that conversation with you too. So for example, if I can hear a bunch of screaming, that could be a memory of the past, or it could just be all of them, you know, still stuck in the same type of situation as they were before. When it comes to communicating, you know, and hearing something, sometimes I can hear it telepathically, other times I can hear it audibly. And there's times where I say to you, Plenty, did you actually hear that too? Because sometimes it's so loud, I can't tell the difference between whether or not I'm actually hearing it physically or telepathically. So, you know, when it comes to a feeling, you know, I can feel spirits as well physically. Sometimes I can get the goosebumps, the chills. Sometimes it feels like a spider web. Sometimes it feels warm. It really just depends on the type of spirit that you come across and how they choose to communicate with you. They can show you an entire movie reel sometimes of like, this is what I went through. Other ones just talk to you like it's you and I. So I know every single psychic and medium is different, but at least that's for me. You know, I have to be open to who and whoever is coming forward, but also how they want to communicate with me as well. So it can get really strange and really different. In the show, you see me, you know, doing a lot of this feels this way. I can feel emotions. I can feel, you know, how they felt in certain situations. But you also see us come across a very loud disembodied voice. And that took a lot of energy for that spirit to come across and do that. And you were actually able to hear it too. Actually,
Yes.
the entire room heard it. So
now, I don't remember what episode. Was this episode 1 where your cameraman left?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Can I say that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Can we talk about that? What happened?
Sure. Yeah. Sure. So, you know, I mean, for years, you know, you investigate and you hear people talk about stories of being injured by ghosts, being scratched or pinched or pushed or whatever. Me personally, I had never seen someone get scratched before. I had seen people show me scratches and said, hey, I got scratched by a ghost, but I'd never seen it firsthand. So we were filming, and that first night was very active. We had rocks thrown at us down the hallway, pieces of concrete. There was lots of physical. Oh yes, it was very physically active.
Is that typical?
No. You could be.
Were
you could
you
ghost hunt for
afraid?
years and never have that.
Were you afraid?
I think
No.
I can't say I was afraid, but I was definitely rattled. And
Yeah.
rattled is probably the best way to put that. You'll see me kind of jump a little bit in the show at times, but it's because things would happen so quickly
Mm-hmm.
that I was trying to avoid a dangerous situation. There were times where things came right up and rushed up behind me and like pushed me a little bit. Our multiple cameramen had things.
Oh my God. Go ahead.
What was that?
She's gonna be like, "Can you guys come over now?"
I don't know. Can we get a pizza?
Um,
Okay, go ahead.
so, I mean, if the dogs aren't barking, you should be okay.
Yeah, there
No,
you go.
right? They know. They know.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they know. All right, cool. Go ahead.
Now, if they're
Now I
just
feel
blankly
better.
staring at a corner, then that's
It's
All right,
okay.
great. Thanks. Thanks a lot. Thanks. All right, go ahead.
But we
You said something came up and rushed
something
you.
Rush you.
pushed me at that time. I don't think that they included it in the show, but it had pulled my hair as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, if you're already going straight to physical activity, then I have to just kind of be mindful of what's going on
Yeah.
because you don't want anybody to get hurt.
So
weren't
it's real
expecting it to happen.
physical activity. It's not something that you're seeing in your brain and it feels real to you.
No, it's
No,
real.
it's real.
It's real.
Oh.
It's bouncing across the floor.
And it takes
Oh,
a lot
boy.
of energy to do something like that.
Yeah.
A lot.
A lot of energy.
And when we realized that they could do that, we just kind of looked at each other like, all right.
Okay,
we
this
need
is going to get serious,
Yeah.
and it can get serious quick. But we're standing there, and you had just picked up on some names, some information, and we were looking straight at that particular camera. I mean, we were looking to him across the hall at the time. And of course, we had 3 cameras on us.
Yeah.
But we're watching him, and then all of a sudden he drops. And the reason we're looking at him, for one, was because he bumped the camera against the door frame, which caught our attention. So we're looking
Sure.
at
I
him.
was standing there staring, going like, ooh, that's an expensive boo-boo.
That's an expensive bump right there.
Like, ooh, that's gonna hurt later. And that's all I was thinking. And then what, 10 seconds
10
later?
seconds later, he throws the camera down and goes to his knees on the floor and says, "There's something stinging me in my back." So my first thought was, okay, Steph, you need to stay away, but she jumps right in. I'm thinking maybe it's a wasp or something like that that's got under his shirt. And when she pulls his shirt up and we see all the scratches across his back, it's like, okay, you did. I'm thinking in my head, you didn't rub anything. You were just standing in a doorway.
Yep.
And there was no one.
It was like
It was
blood.
scratched.
Like
Blood,
it was
yeah.
scratched. Yeah.
And so we're trying to figure out, did he bump into something? Did he rub against something?
Sure.
And I'm looking at the back of his shirt, and it's one of those slick shirts like you'd wear when you ride a bike, a cyclist shirt, a sweat wicking
Like
shirt,
a golf shirt,
whatever.
Sure.
And there was not a single stitch out of place. And when you looked at the inside of the shirt, there was no blood on the inside of the shirt. So it wasn't like it was an old scratch that had been reopened. It happened right there in front of us. And it was severe enough to bring blood.
And you could see like how shiny the blood was, and it was starting to drip. And I looked at you and I was like, it's blood.
Yeah.
Like, you're bleeding. And I remember being in that moment going like, this is not real. Like, this can't be real, because I was watching the entire time.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way. And the person that it happened to, there is absolutely no way that I would have assumed, number one, it would have been to them.
Right.
And 2, he was so freaked out by it, and bothered by it. He pulled me aside afterwards and was like, what happened to me? And I didn't have an explanation at that point. I was like, we haven't been here long enough. I didn't see anything.
Aren't you a psychic? What happened? Right? Yelling at you.
It was,
right? Yeah.
it was so quick
Yeah.
and so insane that we're like, all right, we got to go.
Well, and immediately,
So he left. Did he leave the show?
He did. He left.
Yeah.
He actually got on a plane, 2 days later, and was out.
Yep.
Done.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, that whole night, the activity, the energy kept getting, it was building. So it was getting more aggressive. It was becoming stronger. It's almost like it was building overnight. And then when that happened, I mean, it's like, okay, let's get out of here, regroup, and figure out what's going on, because there's more to this story than just a psychiatric hospital.
Yeah.
So how long did you go there at a time? Were you spending the night, or were you going like, we're going to go for 3 hours a day, or did
Oh
you, how
no,
did that,
What,
what?
we were there for
between 12 and 18 hours
yeah
a day?
a day.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Yeah. So we were immersed into it.
Okay. And
We would
did
only
they build
do
their energy off of you? Because you guys, I mean,
There's
is
a
that,
theory.
yep.
well, you know, you guys
Yeah.
are, you know, kind of, you know, you're not just random people walking through
Right.
there.
Right.
You know, they know, you know.
If I had to blanket that with a statement, I would say it builds its energy off of anybody that walks through there.
Yes.
But us in particular, like being that open, definitely could.
Yeah.
It took us a little bit longer to be affected by it than it would like the everyday person, because you know we're used to it. But it was
I mean,
Yeah.
it was overwhelming no matter which way you looked at it.
but I interviewed
Sure.
people who had worked with patients there at the hospital over the years, and they had told me that they would see patients on a weekly basis, and they could physically notice a change in the patient from week to week. And I think even in the show we discussed one of those patients that begged his the girl who was doing her internship with him or doing some research with him. He actually begged her to get him out of there because he said the place was just taking him over, and he was afraid what it was going to make him do.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah, of
seems like
course.
it just eats at you the longer you're there.
So you went through a lot of the treatment areas, the treatment rooms, right? What types of treatments did you see were going on there, just from what you could visualize, or your the history of the asylum that you know?
I think the combination of everything that you just mentioned, whether it was me that came up with it, whether it was history that you knew, whether it was equipment that was left behind, hydrotherapy was very large for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and electroshock therapy, which people are very familiar with,
Mhm.
lobotomies,
Mm-hmm.
which I will never understand at all. They used to really market music therapy. It was
Mm-hmm.
actually one of the first places that they tested music therapy at one point. And
Mhm.
I think that that was just a really nice way to cover up everything else that they were doing. Not that I agree or disagree that music therapy is beneficial. I don't think that that was their goal.
Right.
I think it was something that they could tell families, like, oh, we're doing lovely things.
Yeah.
You know, when you walked into
Sure.
the place, there was marble walls, marble floors. It
Yeah.
was plush and beautiful, and that was just the front building.
Right.
So you know, you hear, oh, we're going to do music therapy with your loved ones. This is fantastic. It made you more comfortable dropping them off.
We have this great new machine we're going to test on your
Oh,
family
yes.
called X-ray,
Yeah.
and we're going to see how that affects them too. There were so many things. We have these new chemicals that
Yeah.
certain companies have given us. We're going to test those on your family. They'll make them better. Promise.
It's pretty much everything. Things that they were more open about are the things we talked about, but they tested chemical warfare from the military and the government on patients. They tested, like you said, the first x-rays on patients, radiation. And if you listen to part of the show and even talking to the historians in person, they'll tell you how absolutely wonderful this place was, because they developed the technology needed in order to like really correct the x-ray. It's like, why don't we tell the truth, that, or the other side of the truth, which is we tested this and killed X amount of people before we got it right. And the people that we tested it on and killed were, you know, just people that were forgotten. That made great test, what do you say? Great test subjects. And it's gross. The longer that we were in the middle of it, the more that we were just disgusted
Oh,
by the entire thing.
heartbreaking. Well,
It
and too, after you have a lobotomy, you don't even,
No.
No, you're done.
now you could do whatever, right?
And it's
Yeah.
one thing to read through the history and try to discern these types of things from the historical record or
Yep.
from notes or from journals or whatever. but we were able to find someone who worked in the facility when it was open.
Yeah.
And there's some pieces of that interview that are not in the show, but he walked in on some of the experiments that just you could not imagine what they were doing to people.
Oh my gosh.
So, and my question to him was, how did you survive? Because
Right.
it looks like they got rid of everybody who knew anything. So,
Wow. So terrible.
yeah, it was
It was.
rough.
So I didn't see all 6 episodes, so we don't want to disclose everything that
Right.
goes on. But what else can you tell us about the show without giving away too much?
Every episode is a cliffhanger.
Yes.
Every episode digs deeper into the history and the supernatural connections to the history.
Yes.
I compared it to an ant colony. Like it was worse than a rabbit hole, because you would get in there and there would be all these different connections that you would have to research, and you would find so many stories. You just had to pick one to follow and research to be able to see if that would lead you where you needed it. There's so much left to uncover there. One of the big things about Eloise, I think that as soon as those spirits that are there knew that what our intentions were to tell their story, it was almost like they came out of the woodwork and they all wanted to tell us what their story was so we could tell it for them.
It's got chills.
Yeah.
It became overwhelming to get to a point where we heard one story and we go so deep with that one that you couldn't find your way out of that rabbit hole. You couldn't start from point A again, and you just had to continue to follow where the flow was going. And I feel like we left a lot on the table because we had to. We only had about 6 weeks, 7 weeks total in this particular location. We can tell you that there's a lot that we did film and find out that did not make this season. So there's more that we need to do, and that's why you'll see, and not really too much of a spoiler, but we do ask them if we can come back at the end of the show, because I feel like there's so much unfinished business there. I know that there's more spirits that we can help, more stories that we can tell, because a lot of people get especially that live in that area, they get the Eloise is wonderful story. And if you see anything in the news, the media, social media about Eloise, I forgot who was looking at it at one point. One of our production people were, and they're like, look at this. And it was just an article about Eloise. The amount of people that comment on it, just bashing it and bashing what it was and what it did to their families. One part of the show, a woman says, if you were scolded as a child and they wanted to, have you act right, they would say, you better stop it or you're going to end up at Eloise. I'm going to bring you to Eloise. And, it was known as that back then, never mind now. And the amount of families that it tore apart, and they had so much authority. It was insane. There's people that don't even know where their loved ones are buried.
Right.
And just tossed away. Who cares?
Yeah.
So we really wanted to uncover a lot of the truth and a lot of what actually occurred, and really bring to light what happened to these people. Because if you're hanging around because, a place is haunted, okay, why is it haunted? What do these people have to do? What do these people have to say in order to find peace within themselves, justice for themselves, and be able to move forward? So it's not your typical paranormal show.
Right.
It's not your typical 45 minutes, get up and go, and then you're on to the next location. This is truly a deeper dive into what actually occurs, what an investigation looks like, bringing the history and marrying it to the paranormal, and then being able to actually uncover something.
Yeah. We don't just scratch the surface. We get down into the connective tissue and try to make all those connections so that we can bring those stories out.
And that's what I loved about it, the human interest side of it. It wasn't just about, oh, here's a ghost, or, oh, this is scary.
Yeah.
You guys, it is wonderful. It really is a very good show. Again, for me, though, I have to watch it during the day because there is a lot of screaming and scary things that happen. Now, is it my understanding? I don't think we even talked about this, but I think I saw on social media, you guys are going to have a ghost hunt there.
We are.
again.
Yes.
Are you allowed to talk about that?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't ask you.
Oh,
Yeah, I saw
Oh, that's fine.
I saw that.
We
Can
decided.
we talk about
Yep.
that?
Yeah. So we when we knew that the show was coming out, many people do ghost hunts across America. You know, they run an event, they give people a thrill, and they go home. And we thought to ourselves that somebody was definitely going to try to capitalize on that once this show came out. And you know, there's other popular shows that filmed after us, but it aired, you know, around the same time as us. And we thought that it would probably be we went back and forth about it for a while, actually.
We did.
Do we bring people into this location knowing what we went through? Do we not? I never wanted to exploit anybody. I never wanted to, you know, have anything look, you know, bad or, you know, treat the patients terribly. But
we didn't want to treat them like a sideshow.
No. And
Right.
doing the work that we did in this location, we've developed a really good relationship with every spirit or entity that's in the location. So we thought
That we've come in contact with so far.
yes.
Yeah.
So
Except for the one with the nails.
that too, we have a
Oh.
pretty interesting understanding with it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Which we can't totally talk about, but yes.
No
So we
worries.
wanted to be able to use this as a educational type field trip, we'll call it, but
Mhm.
also
Field
come to a
trip.
location.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I mean,
God.
I
Well-
want people to see how we do things. I want to
Yes.
be able
Yeah.
to teach people that there's a different way than just a thrill-seeking opportunity. And people wanted to explore a place like this because especially that they've seen it on TV and they wanted to do it with us. So we thought long and hard, but we are going back. We're bringing people with us. So, I mean, that is open to the public. Anybody can join us to come for this. But
Yes.
we wanted to do it in a safe manner. And we didn't want people to just kind of go around and start poking the bear, so to speak, after they see what we see on TV. We wanted to have it be ourselves that do it.
And we found that some of the spirits that we interacted with
Yep.
and discovered their stories while we were there were more comfortable interacting with us more repeatedly when we
Yes.
would go in. And so it'll be interesting to see if they will still do that when we bring other people in and how that brings out their interaction. You know, this is all a field of learning.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's a lot left to learn. And if we can teach people the right way to interact with whatever energy it is out there, maybe they can take something back with them that'll help them be more understanding of, you know, these entities were once people here with us as well.
Right.
I know, right?
So-
And that's, you know, that's the thing, right? Like they're the same people that left,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And a lot of people forget that, or they view
They're
it
just
as
missing this. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I don't like to be taunted. So don't
Yeah.
taunt me when I'm not here.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
I'll act ugly.
Or a lot of people, they'll jump into something and they'll ask silly questions when they get in there because they just don't understand how it works. And they'll
Right.
say, you know, do you know you're dead? Do you know how you died? You know, like that's not really something that you'd walk up to somebody and say.
True.
You know, if you're walking into somebody's home per se, you know, any type of
Right.
haunted location, can you imagine if somebody just knocked on your door and started asking you crazy questions like that? Like it has to be conversational. Still
Yeah.
treat them like they're living.
You've seen the show. I introduce us
Yep.
and then tell them our intentions. Our
Yep.
intentions are not to harm them or ridicule
It's like
them.
meeting a stranger and just having a conversation and, you know, getting down to what do they need from you? If they have a short window, why are they here? What is going on? And what can they get across to you very quickly?
Mhm.
So we operate from that standpoint. Is it's not just a thrill for us. It's a mission, so to speak, to really dig deep and figure out, you know, can we solve a mystery?
Okay, so to watch the show, we
Mhm.
we download the app, right? Fox
Yes.
Nation,
Yep,
right?
Fox Nation.
And it's right there. You guys are
Front
front.
and
You
Yes.
are front and center.
center.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
you can
and
download
not
it and get
to
a free trial.
not to even question that. Of course, you're front and center. But when I went on there, I was like, oh, they are like right there. So I was like beyond thrilled for you. Like
Thank you.
it's so exciting. So exciting.
Thank you.
And here's the big
And-
thing too. I mean, if you
Yeah.
sign up You sign up, you get a week free trial.
Yes.
Right,
So
it's free.
yeah, it's free. And if you're retired military, active military, or a first responder, your first year is free.
Yeah, which is
Oh,
awesome.
there
Yeah.
you go. Yeah, there are lots of really great shows on there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't, I was like, oh, that's where the show is, you know, because
Yep.
watching TV, it's different now.
It
It
is.
is.
You know,
It
I'm
is.
still learning, you know, on how to watch TV again, you know, because it's just not the same. And then this ghost hunt that you're doing at Eloise,
Mhm.
how would one, when is it, and how would one sign up?
It's November 17th. Of course,
Oh, coming up.
it's coming up in a
Yes.
couple weeks. It's in Detroit, Michigan. The website is evenfall at eloise.eventbrite.com. And then we've got that posted on our social media.
Yep.
So
It is.
if you look us up there, you can go to that link and you can get tickets to join us. And we'll be teaching you a lot of our secrets.
Yes.
And then do you just get yourself there and meet you at a certain time, or do you have hotels that you kind of recommend? Or how does that all work?
So we kind of leave it up to whoever wants to do whatever makes them happy. So wherever you want to stay is fine. It's actually very close to the Detroit airport, so I think it's what, 10-minute drive.
Yeah, it's very
So
simple.
it's very
Oh,
close.
great.
Yeah, super easy to travel into. Detroit is super easy to get to, and actually pretty easy to navigate as well. So you could just Uber to a hotel, Uber to Eloise if you needed to, rent a car. It doesn't matter. But we leave the travel up to everybody else because everybody has their own way of doing things.
Sure. Mhm.
But yeah, all you need is a ticket to our event, and all the information is on that ticket site. What time to be there. There's different ticket options, so people can come for part of the time. They can come for longer if they want to, but it's up to you.
Yeah, I'll get all that information and I'll
Yeah,
pop it. I'll
absolutely.
pop it up with the show. So if people are interested, you know, so
Wonderful.
they can go to your page. So they need to like your social pages. So
Yeah.
we've got your individual pages, but you have a page that Secrets of the Asylum, right?
Yep,
Mhm.
that's a group on
Or
Facebook that people can join as well.
yeah, and Instagram. Are you
We're both on
anything?
there, but not the show, not
The
yet.
show. Okay. All right. So anything else you want to talk about? We're coming up on the hour.
I think my question is, are you joining us in Detroit?
Oh my God. I don't I'm afraid in my house right now. I don't know. I don't know if
I've
I
seen
don't
you ghost
know.
hunt.
Well, I was on a ghost hunt with you one time.
Yes.
But it didn't really seem that like a very scary ghost hunt there. Where was that, at the wayside? That was
Yes,
with
the Wayside.
Tim.
That's what it was
Wayside
called.
Inn.
Yep. I had to
Yeah,
think about
with Tim Weisberg.
Yes.
It was lovely. It was dinner. It
Yeah.
was the lecture. It was lovely.
It was
you
calm.
know.
Oh, well, see, Tim will be with us at
Yeah.
Eloise, so it'll be like a reunion.
Oh, yay.
You should
Yeah.
totally come.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I will consider it, but I can tell you right now, I'm having a hard time being alone in my house. So
But you
I
wouldn't
don't
be
know.
So you wouldn't be
there.
alone. You'd be with us.
No, I know, but look what happened to the cameraman.
Oh, but you'll be fine with
Yeah,
us.
and you won't be holding a camera.
No. You see me walk in, I'll have all this I'll be completely covered. You just see my little eyes. How many people do you think will be going on something like this?
Right now we have a smaller group. We like to keep things smaller, but the location itself is over 200,000 square feet.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you won't run into people very often that aren't with you. You know, we're separating people so that way it's more of an intimate situation for them.
Okay.
So
I'll think about it.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
But I would love to have you back on and we can talk about it.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like we can get pizza and just talk about it here.
Yes.
And then you wouldn't have to be alone.
Yep. It'll be perfect.
I thank you so much.
Well,
Honestly,
thank you.
Thank you.
I almost cried when I saw how it, when I went on the app and saw
Thank
you
you
were
so
like
much.
front and center. I mean, really, it's beautiful, wonderful thing. And and thank you for really putting such a human interest story out here on I call them the victims
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
this asylum, you
Yeah.
know. So all right, guys, I'm gonna kick you out.
That's okay.
It's fine.
Is that
We
good?
appreciate you. Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a
Thank
good
you
one.
so much. All righty.
Good
Bye.
night.
Night.
Good night. What? Did we not? Okay. There we go. No? I don't know. You're not going to leave for some reason. It's all right.
We just
So we're
want to
going to,
stop.
yeah, I know nothing's working tonight. I'm like, whatever. So we're going to sign off, and thank you guys so much for tuning in to V Talks. And we will be back next Tuesday with a week from Tuesday. I don't know what date that is. With another show. And thank you so much for tuning in. Alrighty. Bye.
Bye.